Hi, I'm Raleigh Brown, and we're here today to talk about chords, all things related to chords. We're going to do a nice lesson on it and cover a lot of material. I want to remind you that I may be able to tell you some of this stuff in just a few minutes, but it may take you a few months to get it down. So be prepared to camp out and practice this stuff on a daily basis. I want to give you a little overview of what we're going to talk about today, and I want to divide the idea into infrastructure and application. So the infrastructure part is getting a repertoire of chords into your hands so that they're available for you to use when you are ready to start putting them together into songs. And I'm going to give you a series of exercises which are going to start out being fairly encyclopedic. In other words, there's a lot of stuff here, and it's designed so that you will not have to pull out your chord dictionary and look for chord positions, but so you'll have all of this stuff in your head to work with. We're going to start with some simple exercises and then alterations to those exercises, which teach you not only the chord positions, but where the notes within a chord lie. And then we're going to talk later on in the lesson about application, about once you have a repertoire of chords, how are you going to put them to use? How do they go together? What are common chord progressions and ways in which chords move? And in the next lesson, we're going to talk a little bit about terminology and make sure we communicate properly so that I can use words which you'll understand to help you get around on the guitar as easily and quickly as possible. So before we do all that, let's get in tune here. And this is your low E. And this is your A string. And this is your D string. And here's the G. And here's the B. And here's your high E. Okay, so get that all in tune, and then we'll move on and get to work. So I want to start by giving you some advice on how to use this video. And the first thing I would do, if I were you, is watch it through from beginning to end. Don't get intimidated by some of the harder stuff that comes later on, but just give yourself an overview of all the things we're going to talk about. After you've done that, then you might want to go back and kind of sweet tooth it, find things that you think would help you get started. What I recommend you do first, we're going to learn a series of chords. Basically, if you look at my left hand right now, we're going to have a C7 chord. It's going to be in the first position, the fifth position, the eighth position, and then the 10th position. And that's going to be the basis of this first part of what we do. So that would certainly be a great place to start. And that'll become an exercise, which I'll explain in more detail in a few minutes, which can be, actually, you can incorporate that into your playing and probably do that for a couple months before you do too much of anything else. After you've done that, then we'll move into some other string sets of strings that we use. But I want to talk a little bit about terminology so that we're on the same page. In general, when people talk about the strings of the guitar, if they say the first string, they mean the thinnest one. So this is string 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And of course, when we did tuning, we said the names of the strings. It's good to know those too. Starting from the bass, you have E, A, D, G, B, and E. So if you memorize that stuff, then I won't have to have any communications lapses with you as we talk through it. Let me talk a little bit about how we're going to talk about chord structure here. Basically, a chord is 3 or more notes played at the same time. And for most of the music we play in the Western Hemisphere, or even what we think of as European or American music, we are playing things that are based out of a major scale. And that scale is derived from what's called the chromatic scale. So the chromatic scale is every note. So if you look at my left hand and look at the neck of the guitar, if I were to start, for example, on C, which is the 3rd fret of the A string, and went every fret, there's 12 notes, and then the 13th is C again. That's 1 octave, and it's all the notes. But we usually don't use all of those notes at once. What we do is instead derive scales by pulling certain notes out with certain relationships. And when you do that, you get a certain kind of tonality. If you want a neutral, happy tonality, you may do the major scale. Now, I'm going to do this with my left hand in position instead of using the whole neck, which I did so that you would see the way you'd see it on a piano keyboard. You'd see every note. So the C major scale, actually, if we did it that way and moved up the neck, would go. And you can see that we don't play all the notes. We skip some. And there's basically a kind of whole step, which is 2 frets, whole step, which is 2 frets, half step, which is 1 fret, whole step, 2 frets, whole step, 2 frets, whole step, 2 frets, half step, 1 fret. And the mathematics of that on the fingerboard of the guitar is pure. Any note you start on anywhere on the guitar, if you follow that pattern, if I just pick a note at random here with my left hand, whole step, half, whole, half, it'll be a major scale. So with that neutral kind of sounding scale, which we all heard in The Sound of Music or wherever, then you know what that sounds like. If we pull a different set of notes out, we might pull out a minor scale, which might sound like this. Or we might pull out a blues scale and make it sound bluesy. A minor scale will sound kind of sad. A bluesy scale will sound like the blues. But for what we're going to do first off with chord structures, everything is based on the major scale. And what we do is we take the major scale and then we build a set of chords based on that scale. So every chord only has notes from that scale. If I do the C major scale, it's going to go C, and I'm going to use just little short 3-note chords with my left hand. So I could have a C chord that's just the open G string, the C note, and the open E string. If I then go up a scale tone on each string, I get C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B minor with a flat 5, and then we're back to C again. Now, you may wonder, well, why do you get this flat 5, or why does it go that way? It's because we're strictly following the notes of the major scale. In essence, what I did there was I played the major scale starting on C, starting on E, and starting on G. All notes of the major scale, you put them all together. And that's going to be kind of the basis of the way we think about how chords move. So in the next chapter, I'm going to talk a little bit about how we go into 4-note voicings, and we're going to get right into that first string set.